Breaking right now at 5 a.m. on CBS News Philadelphia. Very sad news to report this morning out of the Vatican. One day after Easter, we are just learning that Pope Francis has died at the age of 88.
Today is Monday, April 21st. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jim Donovan.
And I'm Natasha Brown, in for Janelle Burrell. Thank you so much for joining us on this very somber morning after the death of Pope Francis.
Catholics around the world are mourning the death of the Pope, who died today at the age of 88. Our Ross DiMattei is at the Cathedral Basilica of St. Peter's and Paul this morning. He joins us more on the pontiff's passing. Good morning, Ross.
Good morning, Jim and Natasha. We know that Philadelphia had a closer relationship with Pope Francis than most American cities, considering that he famously visited our city back in September of 2015 for that 4-day stretch, a visit that included a mass here at the Basilica of St. Peter and Paul. And of course, we remember more than 1 million people flocked to Philadelphia that week just to catch a sight of the pontiff. And I imagine that many of them will be in a state of mourning upon hearing this very sad news. Cardinal Kevin Farrell confirmed the news earlier this morning, announcing in a statement, quote, at 7:35 this morning, the Bishop of Rome, Francis, returned to the house of the Father. His entire life was dedicated to the service of the Lord and of his church. He taught us to live the values of the gospel with fidelity, courage, and universal love, especially in favor of the poorest and most marginalized, end quote. Now, of course, the Pope had been battling some health issues of late. You probably remember that he was admitted to the hospital back in February after suffering from a bout of bronchitis for several days. His condition got steadily worse, and his doctors diagnosed him with bilateral pneumonia less than a week after arriving at the hospital. But after spending more than a month in the hospital, the Pope was able to return to his home at the Vatican in late March to continue his recovery. And he was apparently feeling good enough to appear publicly yesterday, leading Easter celebrations at the Vatican and even meeting with United States Vice President J.D. Vance, among some other dignitaries. Now, of course, the Pope's condition must have worsened overnight. We're currently working to confirm the exact cause of death. We know that Pope Francis was 88 years old. And Jim and Natasha, we're expecting more people to arrive here at the Basilica over the course of this morning, and we're hoping to speak with them and get their reaction to the Pope's passing and bring that to you here on CBS News Philadelphia. For now, I'll send it back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Ross. Appreciate it. As Catholics around the world are now waking up to the news that Pope Francis has died at the age of 88.
CBS News correspondent Tina Kraus has more on the Pope's life and legacy.
From his first words as Pope,
Fratelli e sorelle, buonasera.
Francis displayed a humble style that earned him the nickname the People's Pope, often wearing plain robes and living in a small apartment at the Vatican. Born in Argentina in 1936, Jorge Bergoglio became a priest in 1969 and Archbishop of Buenos Aires in 1998. He earned another nickname there, the Bishop of the Slums. He rode the bus, cooked his own meals, and preached in the poorest neighborhoods. The Pope's humility was visible during his visit to the U.S. in 2015. He rode in a small car and his Pope-mobile while getting around in Washington, D.C., New York, and Philadelphia.
In the land of the free, at the home of the brave.
The Holy Father made history when he addressed Congress and celebrated Mass with hundreds of thousands of people in Philadelphia. The Pope also brought a message to U.S. Catholics to take care of those less fortunate. On the final day of his trip, he met with victims of sex abuse. In 2019, Pope Francis expelled disgraced former U.S. Cardinal Theodore McCarrick after a Vatican investigation found him guilty of sexually abusing children. He was the most high-profile church figure to be defrocked in modern times.
We ask forgiveness for our sins.
The move came just weeks before nearly 200 senior church leaders met for a landmark Vatican summit to prevent clergy sex abuse.
Nei confronti dei bambini.
Despite the clergy abuse scandal, the Pope worked at making the church more welcoming. He launched a worldwide survey on contraception, premarital sex, and homosexuality. The Pope said gay people should not be marginalized and famously asked, "Who am I to judge?" Francis made history in 2023, leading the funeral of his predecessor, Pope Benedict XVI. That same year, he celebrated the first decade of his papacy with the release of his first podcast, or Popecast. In an historic interview with CBS's Nora O'Donnell in 2024, the Pope addressed criticisms of his efforts to revisit teachings and traditions of the Church.
One thing is to take tradition into account, to consider situations from the past. But quite another is to be closed up inside a dogmatic box.
Francis, who had part of his lung removed when he was younger, battled a number of health issues in his later years, including hospitalizations for bronchitis. Supporters will forever remember him as a revolutionary pope, crediting him with choosing service and kindness over the power of the papacy. Tina Kraus, CBS News.
Well, CBS News correspondent Naomi Ruckham is joining us now live with more on the death of Pope Francis this morning.
Good morning, Naomi. In New York, I mean, this was a surprise. He looked like he was perfectly fine over the weekend. I mean, looked tired. You know, obviously, he's been battling that double pneumonia over the past few weeks. What happens now? I mean, this comes as a big surprise, but I'm sure there's things already laid in place.
Right, and it does come as a surprise. That said, you know, an archbishop is the one who actually delivered his Easter message yesterday. He was only able to give a very short blessing at the end, although he did appear in front of that crowd of thousands who probably now feel the weight of having seen the Pope, Pope Francis, just merely hours before he passed overnight, the day after Easter. His successor, though, will be chosen by members of the College of Cardinals at a future conclave. This happens at the Vatican. The Roman Catholic Church will begin now elaborate rituals steeped in tradition that will mark the end of one term and the lead of the next. Most are governed by a special church constitution. A cardinal, who's currently Irish-American Cardinal Kevin Farrell, he will run the ordinary affairs in the meantime, during this period that's known as the empty chair. Cardinal Farrell and 3 assistants chosen from among the cardinals who are under 80 years of age, they're known as the cardinal electors. They will decide when the Pope's body is to be taken into St. Peter's Basilica for the public to pay their respects. They will also make sure the Pope's fisherman's ring and his lead seal are broken so they cannot be used by anyone else, and no autopsy will be performed. The cardinal will then lock and seal the Pope's personal residence. They cannot make any major decisions affecting the church or change its teachings. Now the heads of most Vatican departments will resign until the new Pope confirms or replaces them. Mourning lasts at least 9 days, with the date of the funeral and burial to be decided by those cardinals. But they say the funeral should start somewhere between the 4th and 6th day after his death. Back to you.
Naomi Ruckham in New York. Thank you very much, Naomi, for that perspective. And, of course, stay with CBS News Philadelphia for continuing coverage of the life and legacy of Pope Francis. When we're not on air, you can always find us online at cbsphiladelphia.com.